Hunting creatures of evil is a difficult job, and it doesn't pay anything but trophies and peace of mind, but that's more than worth it. I've done so for 20-odd years. If you want to do the same, you need to know a few things. Firstly, the creatures we hunt are really hard to find. They're not people, of course, but that cleverness will make you think otherwise. Don't take that wrong. They don't feel, but they can think something fears. What I mean is, you really gotta know where to look. Try looking in poorer, perhaps run-down areas, and always at night, of course. It's best to search in the oldest buildings you can find, especially ones with basements or attics. Remember to be very careful of creaky floorboards in these types. Secondly, and I know you should know this already, but never kill the creatures outright. Doing that disrupts whatever ungodly energy is inside them and renders everything useless. There are so many potential uses for their nails, horns, wingskin, teeth, all of it. Not all of them have certain features, but there is still practicality to be found in keeping them for a little longer, for testing purposes. Speaking of practicality, don't bother sedating the things when you perform extractions and such. No matter what they tell you or do, remember that they don't experience pain. Just like insects, or fish and birds, or any other animal, I suppose. And that brings us to the final, most important piece of advice. Do not ever, under any circumstance, fall for the creature's tricks for even a minute. I know it's hard at first to look into such human faces and hear such human voices, to listen to their cries for help, the begging pleas and offers of anything at all in return for freedom or mercy. But don't fall for it. I did that myself once, when I was about as young as you, and it wrecked everything for months. That little girl screaming for her parents and desperately wanting to get home was just another one of the things. They are out to destroy humanity, and we don't need many reasons to believe that. We have all the proof we need right in front of us every time we look at the things. It's impossible for anything with a soul to hide behind those blackened eyes and the blood-stained skin. And even if there is some modicum of a personality in there somewhere, it is dark and corrupted in a way that can only be fixed by destroying it. So please, don't listen to their reason. All of those things that they say are simply a ploy to get us to let them go, so they can wreak havoc on all mankind. We ourselves have to get rid of these creatures, these abominations, or they will never stop coming to our world. Granted, we have never seen one of them kill anyone. You just got to trust me, and not worry about the fine details. My daughter turned 5 last month. She loves dolls, especially ones that talk or play music, and she's always running around the house, terrorizing her 9-year-old brother with the ones she has. The amount of money we spend on batteries every month is staggering, but it keeps our little princess happy. So being a milestone birthday, we wanted to give her something special. See, her mother and I had been keeping a very special doll aside for when we thought she was old enough for it. A clown. It's an old pull toy I got as a child. Has to be at least 30 years old by now. I loved it so much that eventually when I grew out of toys, I just sort of threw it in a box in the attic to keep instead of donating with the rest of them. When I met my wife and had our son, we had honestly forgotten about it. But he didn't have an interest in dolls anyway. So, when our little Sarah began to show a real interest in talking dolls. It jogged my memory. Unwrapping it made her so excited. We put new batteries in and showed her how it worked. Unfortunately, very quickly, it became annoying. She would spend hours in her room, making it laugh at her very tired jokes. She woke her brother by playing it under his bed, and we had enough when I walked into the bedroom one day to the insistent laughter from inside my closet. The thing was, she wasn't with it. So feeling creeped out, I took the batteries out. I wish to God that had stopped it. I wish I could be writing this as just another funny parent story. Oh God, how I wish I had burned that damn thing. It's still laughing. It's been over a week since we took out the batteries. I'm terrified. My wife and son are terrified. But we can't seem to pry it from her hands. I don't know what to do. It just won't stop. The man could not recall how he became stranded on the small island. He'd washed ashore, bruised and bloody, with an incessant beeping echoing through his memory. In the darkness of his closed eyes, he would see flashes of fire and metal, but what it all meant remained a mystery to him. He'd spent his first day along the shore, too worried to leave the visibility of the beach. He built a fire, cracked a coconut, and made a temporary shelter from nearby branches and leaves. He did not sleep well. His body was sore, his memories were fragmented, and he was lost and alone. But he was not the only life on the island. In the night, leaves rustled and twigs snapped from within the island's thick, green center. The man fought the urge to investigate. Birds and whatever they'd knocked loose seemed the obvious explanation for the noises. So another day went by, and then another. And finally, after having gone a few days without seeing any sign of coming rescue, the man sharpened a stick and stepped into the forest. He walked through waist-high grass and ducked beneath hanging vines, slid between trees and stepped over fallen limbs, and then eventually, the forest opened up to a large circular area. Nothing inside, but long grass and a single bare tree. An odd-looking tree with a drooping limb on either side. Its top a roughly rounded wooden ball. Slivers of sunlight streaked downward, like heavenly rays. It was tranquil and green, and to the man, seemed how the Garden of Eden might have looked. The man found it alluring, and was drawn in like a magnet. A calm washed over him. In this area, the grass seemed softer. Its shadows felt more cooling. Its ribbons of sunlight more healing. He stepped closer towards the tree, which, while taller than him, was not tall like any of the other trees. As the man came nearer, he was increasingly struck by the strange appearance of the tree, and found himself wondering if perhaps it wasn't a tree at all, but something else. Something man-made. It even looked a little bit like. There was a sudden snap of a twig beneath the man's foot, and what first seemed to be a tree promptly spun around and glared at him. From its splintered mouth came an unwelcoming snarl. The frightened man fell backwards and frantically scrambled to his feet. A quick, bounding nightmare rushed through the tall green grass, and as the fleeing man stole a final hurried glance towards a growing, guttural roar, he saw clearly the thing's wild eyes and rabid, snarling mouth. In a blink, his legs were snagged from beneath him, and his sharpened stick knocked from his hand. He was dragged towards the center of the circle, clenching fistfuls of grass, screaming desperately and hopelessly, beyond the tearing of flesh and snapping of bone. was the distant rumble of a searching plane.
Please subscribe, or the toxic skull will come for you.